Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 47 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Digital Federal Credit Union, but they're better known to all of us by now. Come on, say it with me, DCU. And not only is DCU a great place to bank at, but they are also a great place to work at. And they're hiring right now for full and part-time positions for several of their branch locations throughout Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And if you, a friend, or a family member is looking for a career change or to start a new career at a credit union, making a difference for their members and their employees, then visit dcu.org/careers. DCU is proud to be an equal employment opportunity and affirmative action employer. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by MistressCarrie.com, where you can find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast, the full-length episodes every Wednesday, the situation reports that you get every weekday, the after-action reports when someone comes and hangs out with us on Cocktails in the War Room. And speaking of the War Room, every episode of Cocktails in the War Room is up there as well, all 128 of them. Plus the events calendar, my blog, my photo galleries, and of course the online Mistress Carrie store, which is where you can get the awesome new baby onesies just in time for Mother's Day. For all things Mistress Carrie, just log on to MistressCarrie.com. Okay, this week on the podcast, I had a chance to sit down and talk to Brandon from Atreyu. The band has their new album coming out on June 4th on Spine Farm Records called Baptize. I know I've met Brandon in the past, but it was really cool to sit down and get to know him on this week's episode. Of course, we had to talk about the writing of the album and how COVID influenced all of that, songwriting, going from being a drummer to a lead singer, lineup changes in the band, guys like Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach and Travis Barker from Blink-182, touring, the fans, and so much more. It's a really fun interview with an absolutely rockin' corresponding playlist. So don't forget to check out the links in the show notes so you can check out the playlist as well. Allow me to introduce you to Brandon from Atreyu.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Brandon, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on everything that's going on with Atreyu in the middle of a pandemic. It's quite a feat to be able to try and function normally these days.
You know, the term normally is a different situation, but we're doing everything we can. You know, we feel great about what's happening, and we're excited to finally be kind of back, dipping our toes back in the water, so to speak.
The band has gone through a lot in the last couple years, and you have had to make some serious adjustments. And this is before a global pandemic.
Yes.
So talk to me about the transition for you. There's a pretty good track record of drummers that become lead singers.
There's some good positive notes there. There's some good positive examples. But, you know, for us, it was just a matter of doing what we felt is most natural to us and what it was going to be I guess, the least amount of shock to the system, to our fans, and introducing a new voice, a new personality didn't seem like it was the answer. Luckily, we had last summer summer of 19 in Europe, where we played with the same lineup due to an injury that our old singer had like last minute. So we had to go to Europe with like 3 days notice and teach our current drummer our whole set, and had one rehearsal in London and not in London, in the UK, and played a bunch of festivals. And so we kind of knew how it felt. Luckily, there was like a weird test run that we didn't know was a test run. But now it feels comfortable, it feels good. And it just seems like it was the right move to make and the right direction to go. And so far people seem to be happy with it as well.
How was it for you? What is different for somebody that grew up playing the drums and always had singing responsibilities, but now to be the guy?
It's like letting a dog out of the cage. I'm like a kid, man. Like, I like to just run around and have fun and interact and be in people's faces and just go for it. So it's a cool opportunity to be able to show that energy with this band, because behind the drums, I mean, I'm jumping around, I'm standing on my drum, I'm doing as much as I can without going full Lars and doing laps around the drum kit. But it's fun for me to be able to just run around and do my thing. So it's been a fun transition. Granted, we haven't played tons of shows. We've only done kind of our live stream events, but I'm excited to get to that point.
How is it with another drummer in the band, not trying to mentally play the drums and critique what they're doing back there? That's got to be hard.
It is. And I think luckily for me, again, Kyle Rosa, our new drummer, was the drummer of my other band, Hell or High Water. So he had to do that with me in the first place for me to start another band. And the point was you have to have a good guitar player, you have to have a good bass player, this and that, but you have to have a drummer that you're not going to worry about all the time, or else this isn't going to be enjoyable for me. I'm just going to worry about the drums all the time because that's just what my brain is. And he did that with ease with Hell or High Water, and really became his own kind of personality musically in the band. And the dude is an absolute killer. So it was no questions that he would be able to handle it. And again, him doing it in Europe, it was wow, you knocked it out of the park with one rehearsal. So it feels good. I don't have to worry about him. And we've had many discussions where it's what do you want me to do? What do I have to play exact? I want to do these songs justice. And I'm figure out let's get the phrase, the structure down. And if there's certain parts, you seem are important, do those, but be you, you play drums now. I don't play drums anymore. So he's kind of taken it into his own hands, and I'm a fan of his playing. So I think that it's translating well so far. I don't have anything to worry about.
When's the last time you guys played a traditional rock show in a venue with a crowd?
It was end of February, early March in Australia. So we were in Australia, started hearing about COVID, and then it had hit some Asian countries, Europe, and hit Australia the day or two before we left. And naive, dumb Americans were whew, glad we're going home before this was here too long. And then
famous last words.
Yeah, we're the and then we ended up being the friggin' worst country in the world. But so we were kind of getting down to the end of our cycle anyways, but it's still been way too damn long since we played a show to people.
Were you guys working on Baptize on that tour, or is Baptize completely a fruit of the lockdown?
We started Baptize in January. So we went in for a few weeks in January and wrote and recorded a lot of the album. And then obviously went through our shifts and everything. And we went back, I believe it was in July, and finished the record, wrote a handful of new songs, finished recording everything. And so it's kind of both. We started it and then finished it kind of midway through. And that was a big thing too, is even finishing the album. We started talking about going back in to finish the album in May, but weren't comfortable with doing so yet. It was we're gonna go back in a studio. Our bass player lives in Alabama. We're in California. We don't know who everyone's seeing. It's just a weird time. So we finally kind of got to a point where we, got it together and felt safe about how we were going to approach it and finished, But it's funny, like I've said this before, there's songs on the album that you'd be like, yeah, those dudes totally wrote this in the middle of the pandemic, but you're like, no, we wrote that in January, which is weird. It's like there's this weird prophecy of like kind of vibe about the record where it's like, I don't know how it's like the world was already in just like unraveling to an extent to write these songs, and then they just became way more relevant later, unfortunately.
Were there songs that were affected by the separation and the lockdown and all of that maybe you thought the song was going to go one way in January, and then when you went back in later that summer, the songs changed?
I think that they kind of just, not a lot changed as far as like the idea. I think just the feeling that they gave us, like our song Save Us, like gave us a very different feeling when a lot of the horrible racial things were happening in our country and George Floyd and all that. And it was just like, damn, like we wrote this song about just like the corruptness of our country in general, and the fact that like there's all these horrible things happening, and like we're the only people that can change it. Like internally you change and that ripples, and then it was like, damn, like this just got worse and became something more. Like if I had it my way, I would have put out Save Us in like a year ago, just because it was like, I think people need this right now, and even Warrior, like it's a song about finding your self-worth and believing that you have self-worth, and like, you have that inside of you to be something and like special. And I think now a lot of people have lost that. A lot of people lost their jobs, lost their marriages, like their life fell apart in this last year. And
I lost mine 29 years at WAAF and got laid off at the end of February when the station got sold.
Yeah, it's crazy. Where do you go? You figure out like, the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
I think, Warrior became an even more relevant song for us too. Like I know myself, like I was, trying to get myself into like lead singer ready positioning and like working out with a trainer and trying to figure out what the fuck to do with my life, because my main thing that I do is gone. And like that song helped me. Like we wrote it and it helped me still. I would listen to it and be like, damn, like, okay, I'm connecting to that never happens. You kind of just listen to your own music and you're like, this is cool or whatever. I like it. Obviously I made it, but so I think that a lot of the songs that came out will be a lot more relevant than we even expected them to be.
It's been really interesting with the bands going back and forth about whether or not to release new music in the middle of this whole thing. Do we save it until we can tour? It sounds like saving it wasn't an option because of how well the songs fit with what was going on. Was that why you chose to put it out then?
Sort of. We obviously, even the record coming out in June and us starting to release music a few months ago, we had talked about it and it wasn't right yet. And we finally kind of felt comfortable with a time. And someone our bass player, Porter, brought this up, in a meeting, and we're sitting there talking about when's a good time, when's the right time. And, I don't want to do things till touring's back and whatever. And he's like, guys, like as a band, we're so like inspired and just like fired up right now that he's like, who cares if we put the record out in June and touring doesn't come back till September, October, let's go fucking back in and make another fucking record. Who cares? Like we're inspired. We can go do that tomorrow in the studio now and feel great and energetic about writing more new songs. Like this isn't our last album. I could see if it was like, oh, this is the last album the band's ever going to have, or we're going to do a farewell tour or whatever. Maybe then you got to plan your stuff out. But for a band who's got a lot of juice left in the tank, like it's just time. Like our fans want music and people need music. They're leaning on music still. And that's that one thing that's there for people right now. So like, we can't deprive them of that, so it seemed like the right thing to do.
I talked to Thrasher from Escape the Fate recently, and he could not stop singing the praises of working with Travis Barker. Can you talk to me about what that experience was like for you?
That dude's just a legend, man. He's just like so good at everything he does. He's so good at drums. He's just like gets the vibe of the studio. And first of all, like you hit up Travis Barker to plan a song, and like I know he knows Atreyu. I know he knows who we are. I've met him a handful of times. Like we're in his universe, but at the same time, I don't know if he's going to be like, yeah, or be like, no, I don't want to play on your song. And he was like pumped. Like he had a great time doing it. And like Travis Barker's in the freaking live room playing drums, asking like, hey man, was that cool? Like, do you want me to do anything different? And I'm just like, like,
well, as a drummer
right?
yourself, like,
Yeah.
you know, what Thrasher and I were talking about is that you look at a guy like Travis Barker, and he was born to play drums. His body, it just the way that he plays, he's supposed to be sitting back there doing that.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so for you as a drummer, looking at him like, that sounded pretty good.
Yeah. Or like, you know, I had to like, you know, get the balls to be like, you know what, can you try another one, but do this instead? And I had this idea, maybe try this. And he's just like stoked. Like he's there for the love of the craft. Like he loves making music. He loves playing drums. So there's no ego. That dude of all people could have all the ego in the damn world, but he's just like, I'm a fucking guy. I want to play. This song's tight. What do you guys want me to do? Like, this is the part I think is cool. It's like, yeah, do that. And then let's do as many layers as you feel like. And let's play this drum over here. And let's do that. And like, we're just open to ideas. Like it was a very positive experience, which there's a lot of dudes in bands that are a lot less successful than Travis Barker that would have probably given me a much worse time.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's always the guys that could be assholes that never are.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's always the ones that haven't gotten to that point yet that are assholes. And you're like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah. It's like, get out of here. Never mind. I don't want you on the song. You know, we've had you know, positive experiences. We have another song on the record that obviously not out yet, but Jacoby from Papa Roach sings on it. And like, that dude is I've said this before, like that dude's one of the only people I've ever come across where you can hear the energy he has as a human in his voice. Like that's just him. The dude lit the track on fire and was just like going off in the studio like it was his own. And you're like, dude, you're a fucking legend. Like you don't have to be interested. And he's a friend of ours. So like, it's like you're coming in, you're hanging with your homie and making some music, but like, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to care. He can just come in and just, what do you guys want to do? Cool, yeah, peace later. But like, you know, it's always good to work with artists that are equally as excited and like in love with making music as you are.
It's a good thing that you got him to do it before he jumped off that balcony.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, he's all over the place.
I mean, that's what happens when you get locked down by COVID for too long.
Yeah, you do some crazy things for sure. I've gone through it, none of them on purpose, but I've hurt myself a lot this year already.
Doing what? Like a bizarre gardening accident? What's going on?
I've had multiple freak accidents. One of which was life-threatening. One of which was last Saturday, not life-threatening, just painful.
Was that the one that you were talking about with your ribs on Twitter?
Yes, I was trying to pull a umbrella out of my friend's pool. And I stepped backwards thinking it was ground, but it was just pool. So I fell in the pool and on my ribs on the wall. It doesn't feel awesome, but I'm fine. Nowhere in comparison to in January. So in December, I got COVID. At the end of December, I got COVID, right before Christmas. So I spent my Christmas through my sliding glass door, like waving at my kids.
Did you get sick or did you just test positive?
I tested positive and then it was mild.
Okay.
I was very lucky. Like flu symptoms, but just like bad flu symptoms. So I'm, happy about that. So I got tested negative. I've been sitting in my bedroom for 2 weeks. So to get out of my bedroom, my wife's dad has an Airbnb up on the coast, like right on the beach in like Central California. So we're like, let's go to the beach house. Let's get out of here. I'm at the beach house for like 2 hours, not even. And I go downstairs to cook like some sausages on the grill. And I go to walk back upstairs and step over a baby gate that's at the top of the stairs, trip, fall on a glass and just destroy my arm. Like you could see the scar on my arm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And just
they did a good job with the scar and the tattoos.
I got one little wonky line. I can't complain. One little tiny wonky line, but yeah, I mean, rushed to the hospital, emergency surgery, pinky still numb, the whole thing.
Which is not a great thing to do in the middle of a global pandemic as well, whether you've had COVID or not. It's like your family can't be there with you. It's super scary.
Yeah. It was not lucky at all, but my daughter stepped on said glass as I broke it. So she followed it to the hospital too and got stitches. So right before I went into surgery, I could see my wife and my daughter, which was like comforting, but it was still like, get me out of the hospital.
So you're still having pinky numbness and stuff in your hand?
Yeah, I do like physical therapy a couple times a week, and it's all coming back. It'll be fine, but it's still just an annoying. It just feels like my hand's asleep all the time, which is incredibly annoying. But.
Did you do anything outside of music that didn't try to kill you during lockdown?
No, everything I tried to do at least hurt a little bit. Even the first like back in like March or April, I did like a live from my living room thing where I did like reimagined versions of like Atreyu songs and Hell or High Water songs, and had just like, it was me in my living room with like projection. And the morning of, I woke up and couldn't sing. My voice was toast. So if I look back on the recording, like I'm squeaking like a freaking 13-year-old boy, just like all over the place. But people are in the chat, they're like, keep going, man. This is awesome. Like, thank you for doing this anyways. And people were appreciative, but it was like, man, like, give me a break, guys.
So what was the motivation then to get the crap kicked out of you in your new video? I mean, weren't you bloody enough from lockdown?
So we filmed the video before any of this stuff happened.
Oh, okay.
So you can imagine when my wife saw the video for the first time, my wife and my mom were both like, I don't like this.
You're covered in blood.
Yeah,
you got a bottle broken over your head. Like it was a total premonition.
Yeah, like this is PTSD for me. This is not good. No, it's funny because I've had that video like concept for a while, and no one ever really wanted to do it because no one wants to like beat up their friends. And then finally, the Atreyu guys agreed to it, and it kind of just made sense. Like, it's like me getting jumped in a sense, and it's kind of all it's a little bit of like foreshadowing to like the kind of a little bit of like the shitstorm that I am enduring with just like people that are mad about the band shift or whatever. But it's just kind of like taking my lumps and like earning my keep in this new position. But to me, it was just like, guys, so this video, you just beat the shit out of me. The end. I didn't think anywhere else further than that, but it turned out cool. It's different for us. We've never done anything like it before, and it was hilarious and fun to shoot. Painful, but fun nonetheless.
It's obviously one of those Hollywood sugar bottles. How many of those got broken over your head?
About 9, but I will say those sugar bottles, they don't not hurt. And when the sugar shatters, it cuts you in these little tiny cuts. So my poor bald head that got like 9 of those things broken, I had like little baby cuts all over my head. And then there's a few shots, like there's about 3 shots in the video where you're like, oh, like that punch landed. And those were like the 3 that were clear enough to capture. There's a lot of kicks, and every take we'd end, and it would be the 4 dudes rushing to me, like putting a hand on my back, like, you okay? You good? Like,
I'm so sorry. Like I just punched you in the face.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But it was fun. Like it was exhilarating and fun to make. Our label hated it.
I'm sure they did. And I know that a lot of you guys, I mean, you were kids when you met, and right now during lockdown, there are so many people picking up guitars, drums, trying to sing for the first time. Instrument sales are going through the roof. How many amazing bands are going to be out there, 10, 15 years from now that got inspired by this? What advice would you give to people that are just now getting into music as teenagers or whatever? Because you guys are a fruit of those teenage friendship bands.
Yeah. I think that people that are starting bands or getting out there and are going to be like, maybe even playing shows for the first time once all this opens up, it's going to be cool for them because there's such a just like rabid energy from people that want to just go to shows and like see live music that I think they're going to get like a warm welcome, maybe like more warm and more open than new bands might usually get. Just people just want this. They want it back. And I think it's cool. I think the right way is to come out of a situation like this last year plus better, like for me, it was like, be better at be a better singer, be a better writer, be in better shape, be healthier, be a better husband, be a better dad, like come out on top, or else it's all for naught. It's like, well, then what did I do for the last, if I wasn't working and I wasn't like, doing my everyday life that I usually get to do, like what else did I do if I didn't come out on top? So I feel like it's great. Like people that took that time, I mean, fuck, everyone can bake bread now.
Right.
So like everyone bakes bread, apparently.
And I've been a zombie prepper, like one of those doomsday preppers for over a decade now.
So you already had tons of toilet paper.
I had all that stuff, but one of the things I always keep in the house is like those yeast packets, right? And then all of a sudden you go to the store and you can't find yeast because everybody's got a bread maker all of a sudden. They're trying to make bread at home.
Everyone's baking bread. It was hilarious because early, like first 3 months of pandemic, everyone made bread and got fat and drank too much. And then the back half, everyone was like, okay, you gotta stop making bread.
Yeah, there's only so much bread somebody can eat. Is that what you were doing? How was it as a dad being locked in the house with the kids? I mean, this has been such a strange experience for parents to spend this much quality time with their kids. Especially for you because you tour.
I'm always gone. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, definitely an adjustment, but like a positive one, you know. And my wife is like a freaking magician. Like she comes up with these ideas and little things to make the day special. And we'd have freaking water slides and kiddie pools and like popsicle day. And we did like a Disneyland day where our whole house was set up like Disneyland. And like we did Christmas in June and like all this just stuff to be like fun, you know, because it can get real mundane. And like when you can't even like go to the park, you got to figure stuff out. So it was a beautiful thing. And I definitely didn't take it for granted. Like I probably will never get this much concentrated time with my wife and kids ever again. And so it's been a wonderful thing. We're lucky that both my girls are young enough where they hadn't started school yet. So they didn't have like that void to fill for them either. But you know, it's been kind of cool, man. Like you really just get like a magnifying glass on like your kids growing up and you're seeing every little thing. And, you know, we've had a couple times during this where like, maybe we get to go somewhere for the weekend without the girls. And then you come back and you're like, what happened to you? Like you're a year older. It's been 2 days, but it's because, you know, you're used to seeing them all the time. But it's been cool. And everyone, you know, aside from me getting COVID, everyone's remained healthy and happy and just kind of pushed our way through. So
I'll add you to the list of another band member that suffers from rock star revenge because you ended up a girl dad. I've been saying this for decades, that the list of rock stars that avoided having a beautiful daughter is extremely short.
Oh yeah. And I have two. And I'm fine with it. I'm like, I think I'm a true girl dad. Like I'm not like a tough guy. I'm not like super into sports. You know, I'm into like painting and like art and music. You know what I mean? Like I love romantic comedies. You know what I mean? So it's like,
okay, hold on.
Girl dad.
We have to talk about this because it's literally the only thing I do that's really girly. I'm not a girly woman. Yeah. And I have seen every romantic comedy that has ever come out, and it's literally the girliest thing that I do. What's your favorite one?
Couples Retreat.
Oh, that's a good one.
Vince Vaughn's always a killer.
Yeah, seriously.
Four Christmases is good. Another Vince Vaughn classic. I'm into them all. I love, 50 First Dates. They're all good. Rom-coms are that's my genre. But so being a girl dad, I'm like, yeah, of course I'm a girl dad. But I also am very honest with myself about the fact that like both of my daughters are freaking beautiful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm their dad. It's like people.
Rock stars usually have beautiful daughters because rock stars usually have beautiful wives. So it just kind of happens that way.
It makes sense. You see mom and it makes sense. But it's like one of those things where it's like, man, I'm fine now. But in like 13 years, I'm going to want to beat up so many people. I'm going to want to punch so many boys in the face. And I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with that before then. You know?
Before I have to let you go, can you do me a favor? Talk to me about the relationship between Atreyu and the fans and what you've missed most about being set. I mean, I know that you can get on Twitch and I know that you do cameo videos. I do those too. And you're active on social media, but talk to me about, from my perspective as a fan, not being able to go to those gathering places, those venues to get together, to go to shows. It hurts me, but talk to me about what it's like from your perspective in the band and what you miss the most about your fans.
It's kind of like you said, I just miss that human connection. There's something to be said about, I think every band maybe taking a bit of that for granted because it becomes your everyday when it's like, it's never lost on you when someone's like, oh, I love your band. Like, this song changed my life. And this song was there for me when I was down in high school and whatever. That's never lost on me. But when you don't have that connection of there's nothing more pure than playing something you've created on stage and seeing that pure reaction from someone giving it back. It's not a computer. They're not shy about how they're acting, especially at our shows. Like, we try to break down that wall and just let people have a good time and be themselves. And it's like, there's nothing more pure than that. So when that's missing, it's a void for sure. And we've had conversations, me and my wife have had those talks where it's like, we try to really just kind of have like the, how are you talk? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we live every day and we talk every day and we're very connected, but it's like, how are you? Just checking in, you know what I mean? And she was asking like, I know you're excited to when you can go play shows. And I understand that it's like, you're not excited to leave us, but you're excited to do that. And she's like, how is that? Like, do you think about that a lot? And it's like that, I'm happy. My family's healthy. I'm healthy. I get to like, I've got to make music, but like there is a hole from not playing shows. And it's like, I think that people that truly love what they do and love being in a band would all think the same way. Where like, there's just something about that raw emotion that goes into playing a live show. That you give and that you also receive, and not giving it hurts and not receiving it hurts, So it's like, I think it's a big thing. Like, I think a lot of artists and musicians and even like comedians or people that just do things in public, like they're hurting and they're ready to get back out. I think that you're going to see a lot of your favorite bands in like a way more fired up way than you ever have. I think a lot of these bands are going to be fucking pumped up.
Well, 2020 was supposed to be a huge year for concerts anyway, and it got snoozed.
You had Rage coming back. You had My Chem coming back. You had all these bands that were like doing sold out arena tours around the world. You had festival things. You had all the Danny Wimmer festivals that were slammed and booked, and it was just like, poof. And then, everyone waits, but there's going to be good that comes out of this. There's already been good for a lot of people that have come out of this, whether they've found things inside themselves they didn't know they existed, or they started new, paths in their life, and those are working out for the better. But there's going to be good when everything comes back, and especially in music, I think that it's going to be kind of like a renaissance. It's like people are going to be really excited to play, and people are going to be really excited to listen.
I know the answer for this question for a lot of people would be Atreyu, but I'm curious what your answer is. If you could leave the house right now with a concert ticket in your hand as a fan, who would you want to go see tonight, right now? Any band?
One of the best shows I've ever seen, period. And every time I've seen them, it's been one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen is Foo Fighters. I've seen Foo Fighters in Australia. I've seen them in LA. I've seen them in Anaheim. And every time it's like, that just takes it out of me. Like, that gives me everything I want out of a live show, out of a performance. And I would go see them in a heartbeat right now if I could.
I started asking this question and the answers have been amazing. So I'm excited to hear what your answer is. As a songwriter, what song of any song from any artist of any era do you wish you wrote?
Oh, there's so many.
But from a songwriter's perspective, is for whatever the reason is, just a song that you absolutely love that you go, oh man, I wish I wrote that song.
I wish I did that. From a classic standpoint, like my whole life, it's been a song that I've been like, damn, this just doesn't get better, is Handle with Care, Traveling Wilburys, which has just been one of my favorites since I was young. Most recently, the song that I wish I hear now on the radio that I'm like, wish I would have fucking done that, is Animals by Architects.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, God damn it. It came out, I'm like, motherfuckers. Like, damn it. It's so good.
The answer to that question is always interesting, especially because you're coming at it from a songwriter's perspective.
Yeah. From just because we're releasing music simultaneously, like, at the same time. So I think we really save us at like the same day or within the same week of Animals. And it comes out, I'm like, oh, fuck, cool, New Architects. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Save Us is sick. I love that song. I'm proud of it. But I'm like, you did it. You motherfuckers. Like, that's a jam. That's a jam. Like, why didn't I come up with that riff in the studio? You know, but I love that. I'm a huge, I like to lift bands. I'm a fan. I bought 2 colors of the Architects vinyl. I just got like grandson vinyl in the mail yesterday. Like, I'm a fan.
Well, that's what's great about rock is that you're not just someone that is in a band, but you're a fan of other bands. That's this whole genre of music, that tight-knit community is because of what you're talking about.
For sure. And I think there's a lot of artists and musicians and bands, they don't like to build up other, like, their peers because they think of it as like a competition thing. And of course there is, but like, I think there's nothing better for the genre and for the scene worldwide than to build up your peers. If you have a band that you love you're playing shows with, or you're going head to head on tour with, build everyone up. Like, the water rises with the ships. Like, if we all do good, it's good for everyone. There's so many people that are hating on so much. Like, prime example, like Machine Gun Kelly making like a pop punk record. Everyone's like, fuck you, you're hip hop, you think you can just be a rock dude now? And it's like, yeah, that dude's number one, like, everywhere. That record is massive. If that record gets pop people to now pay attention to other rock bands, that's good for all of us. Like, everyone build everyone else up, and it will be positive and good for everyone. So I'm a fan. I support bands still. I buy merch, I buy vinyl, and I think it's important to do so.
That was one of the things I had to learn coming out of the radio world and moving into podcasting, is that radio is so competitive and you would never even talk about another radio station or anything. Whereas podcasting, it's like what you're talking about. It's like we're all in this together and we all are talking about each other's shows, and it's amazing, but totally different.
For sure. That's what I've learned a lot in the kind of Twitch community.
Yeah.
Is that everyone is so about just like lifting up your brother or your sister. You know, it's like, I've had such huge support from like Matt Heafy, and like there's a dude, Young Gun, on Twitch, and like all these different people that have like come over that I don't even know, that'll just like raid my channel and talk about my channel on their channel. And it's like, they don't have to do that. Like, we're in competition too. People only have so much money to like subscribe to these channels. Like, but it's all about building everyone up, you know, to build the platform, build the community, and everyone's happy. So I love that. Well,
I cannot thank you enough for being so generous with your time. I'm glad that you survived the umbrella. I'm glad you survived the broken glass. I'm glad you survived.
That was my 3. Yeah. The COVID, the glass accident, and the pool accident. I think that's 3. So
Seriously, so you should be done. Usually bad things happen in 3s. So hopefully 2021 will be injury-free moving forward for you.
My bubble comes from Amazon on next Tuesday, so I'll be just traveling in a plastic bubble.
You got to get one of those ones from the Flaming Lips. Have you seen those that they're using at their
walk
shows?
Around.
Yeah, they're awesome.
COVID safe too. You know,
right?
Multi-purpose.
They look like a lot of fun. I bet going to an Atreyu show in one of those giant inflatable bubbles would be a blast.
It'd be great. Bubble pit, just like 10 of them. It's a VIP thing where you get a bubble and you get to just do your own little hamster thing.
Yeah, or you could just walk out in the crowd.
I could.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan. Maybe we all are in bubbles and the whole show we're just out in the crowd.
Yeah.
No one's on stage.
Why not? I know. We're solving the world's problems right here, dude.
Gets percolating in here.
That's right. It's all creativity. Well, the new album Baptize is out on June 4th, and we're counting the days until we can all get together in the same room and be able to go to a show. So I can't wait to see you guys and hear all the new music live. So thanks for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
There he is, Brandon Saller from Atreyu, and the new album, Baptize, is just a few weeks away. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe or follow the Mistress Carrie podcast so you don't miss anything. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, and of course, Monday through Friday, you get the Sit Rep, which is all your music news, rock headlines, and industry info in less than 5 minutes. Plus, give us a 5-star review and leave us a comment so we know what you thought of the episode. And share it with your friends that are Atreyu fans as well. In the show notes of this episode, you get all the links to check out Brandon online, to find the band, and of course, the corresponding playlist, which is packed with all of the music that we talked about in this episode. Huge thanks once again to Digital Federal Credit Union at dcu.org and mistresscarrie.com for sponsoring this week's episode. I also want to say hello to everybody that's got a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass on Patreon. Lots of big news coming out in the next couple of weeks with my return to radio being announced. And you can join me every Tuesday night at 8:30 live on my Facebook page for Cocktails in the War Room. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.